Hello, this is Magnus Ditlev, and you are listening to the MX Endurance Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, the sexiest voice in triathlon, none other than James Bale. Jimbo, you derailed me. I had to do it a second time, but we're here. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, I got my timing right this time, didn't I? Because I totally talked over you as you were doing your intro. I didn't realise you pressed record. So here we are. We're back again. The weeks are flying by. Christmas is coming, man. I'm starting to feel festive. How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, the same. I think I messaged somebody. I was like, I've hit that wall today, like that end of year wall where I'm like, I'm ready for break. I'm ready to take a couple of weeks off. We should probably say we are taking a couple of weeks off the podcast. I think the episode that will come out on Christmas Eve will be our last episode for 2 weeks, and then we'll be back in the new year. I think we've earned it this year, mate. It's been, we've done plenty of podcasting when there's not been a lot happening all the time. But yeah, definitely getting to that time of year. I was actually thinking for the last episode, I'm going to set up the Christmas tree behind me because I've got this incredible Christmas tree with all the lights. So I might have a little Christmas tree behind me. You were talking about wearing a Santa hat, but how are you, mate?
I'm gonna wear a Santa. Yeah, I'm well, but like you just said, I relate. It's strange how when December rolls around, you get into December and suddenly you just go, actually, I could do with this little mini break now. This couple of weeks,
I'm over it.
Yeah, it'd be nice. So yeah, the end of year is coming. Christmas is coming. We still got stuff to talk about. There's still stuff happening. We got a guest this week, haven't we? So onwards into the world of multi-sport.
We should have guests every week for the rest of the year. We should have guests for the next 3, this episode and the next 2. But I just want a bit of a behind the scenes peek for our listeners, because I want them to know that while we do obsessively talk about triathlon, sometimes we talk about other sports. And for our American listeners, which I know there are literally tens of thousands of you, I'm going to talk about cricket a little bit because the Ashes have started. Yeah. And the Ashes is something that I love. I especially love it when Australia is doing well. And yesterday, before the first ball, a match was bowled, you said openers getting out, first ball, golden duck. And lo and behold, in comes the bowler and boom, out. How did you do it, James Bale? Are you actually a time traveller?
I just had a feeling, mate. I had a feeling. I knew I could see there was nervousness about, and I said, yeah, I reckon he's gonna get out first ball. And yeah, he did, and it wasn't the best ball of all time either.
It was a great ball. What are you talking about?
But it was
almost as good a ball as Jan Frodeno's performance at the Tri-Battle. Ball of the year, mate.
Collapsing for 147 on day one of the Ashes, mate, is not what you want to see.
Well, you know what? I'm going to put a stop to the cricket talk because all our listeners will be very happy for me doing this and say this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack. Jimbo, what's something that you like about MX Endurance?
Well, there's plenty happening at the moment, isn't there? We've got our podcast awards, which have been released to the group to vote on. So that's going to be probably one of the most important titles any triathlete can win this year.
Ever.
But also you've released the final design for the MX Endurance tri-suit, which is going in the team store, and it's really quite lovely, mate. You got some skills, old boy, on the design front. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it came out good, didn't it? Because they've taken the photos of it now, so it's not just the design file anymore; it's the actual kit, and it's fire. I've ordered myself one that'll be coming. I think the store opens next week.
The photos you got with the well-modeled kit, it's just, I look at that and I think I wish my physique looked like that in a tri-suit.
It could, mate. It could. You know what would help it is if you could run a really, really fast half marathon, like the first article we are talking about, which comes from John Levison at Tri 24/7, and I changed the name and said, "Who said triathletes are only okay at 3 sports?" On Sunday, Morgan Pearson was running in run-in mode only, racing at the USA TF Half Marathon Championships in Hardyville, South Carolina. Pearson has won previously over the distance too. No, he's run previously over the distance too, with an impressive 1:02:15 on his debut at the Michigan Pro Half Marathon just over 12 months ago, a race that he won. He further improved his personal best time on Sunday when he ran a 1 hour, 1 minute, 47-second half marathon. Clocking was enough to secure his 8th place in the championship race. Connor Mance took the title in 1 hour 55 seconds. For context, Pearson's pace converts to 4:43 per mile or 2:56 per kilometre for a half marathon. The day didn't go quite so well for 2016 Olympic triathlon champion Gwen Jorgensen. She finished 25th in the women's championship race, almost 7.5 minutes down on the women's winner, Kira D'Amato, who was in 1:07.55. She finished in 1 hour 15:21. Having run 1 hour 10:58 for 4th place in the same championship event 3 years ago when it was held in Pittsburgh is not one that will boost confidence. She said it was frankly terrible. Days like today hit me hard. I'm confronted with quitting, questioning why. But my why is exactly what keeps me going. I failed today, but the last few months have been so enjoyable for me. At some point, I'll call it quits, but that will be after a race. I know what happened and why. Jimbo, Morgan Pearson, pretty good runner.
Yeah, dude. Running on 101.47, sorry. Behind a 1 hour 55 second flat winner. I mean, 4:43 per mile, 2:56 per kilometer. That's interval pace, you know.
Yeah, I can maybe do 400 meters at that pace.
Yeah,
I'm lucky.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah,
Can run,
well
mate.
done. And it's good. It's always good to see triathletes putting in a bit of a demonstration as to how, you know, it's not just a master of none situation. He's hell of a runner and well done. Yeah, not quite so good for Gwen Jorgensen though, you know. Had a bad day at the office there, but I'm sure she'll be back. Do you think she ever regrets moving out of triathlon?
I was about to ask you the same question. I wonder, because it's not like she's had this meteoric success that she's like, she was very good in triathlon, mate. Like she was, you know, basically she won all the races she did. I don't know. I never got the impression she liked triathlon that much. She seemed to just do it because she was good at it. And I mean, part of me reads this and goes, maybe she'll come back. Maybe she'll decide to come back and start racing long course. I think that would be amazing.
Same thing.
We can hope, mate.
Thing because it would be cool if she. I mean, she may not. She may not. I mean, the stories we hear is that she didn't really ever have the love for triathlon that she did for running and athletics. So yeah, we may be barking up completely the wrong tree, but it would be really, really cool to see her come back and do some long course racing. I'd be up for that.
Yeah, because again, we one of the things Chris has always said is when you're looking at short course athletes going up long, you look for the athletes with that killer run because the swim isn't as important at long course. The bike that they can learn to ride, it's not rocket science. But he goes the run. The run is so critical when you start running those long races, and Gwen can clearly run. So I mean, imagine like that, Annie Haug style running, but even faster. It'd be something. Anyway, we can dream, mate. We're sending it out into the ether. Santa Claus, all I want for Christmas is for Gwen Jorgensen to come back and race long course. That'd be nice.
Totally. Get it done.
Yeah, get it done. Next article, mate, comes from Romy Schoeneveld at Triathlon Today, and that is Ironman reports 56 million Facebook watch viewers for 17 races in 2001. And I want to point out that none of those viewers were Ironman Cozumel because I'm still annoyed about that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
I've got something at the end that draws very good attention to that. With the 17 races that were broadcasted live on Facebook Watch this year, Ironman reached an audience of 56 million viewers, the brand stated in a recent press release. Nearly 56 million triathlon fans around the globe consumed 738,000 hours of live and on-demand content from the 17 live Ironman and Ironman 70.3 events through Ironman's official social media channels during 2021. Especially the Ironman 70.3 World Championship in Utah, which was won by Gustav Iden and Lucy Charles Barclay, which attracted a large audience. In total, the event saw over 7 million live and on-demand video views, equating to over 115,000 hours of race coverage consumed. Additionally, this year Ironman announced their new concept, A Fighting Chance, which follows pro triathletes in their preparation towards a big event through short documentaries broadcasted in the week leading up to an event. People get an idea of what their life as an elite athlete is like. The 3 videos that were made attracted 3 million viewers. In the upcoming months, Ironman will announce which races will be part of their live program for 2022. And in their press release, James Bale, was titled, Ironman delivers unparalleled live event broadcast coverage and captivating content on Facebook Watch as athletes returned to racing in 2021, bringing the sport to a global audience. What are your thoughts, James Bale?
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't. No, you don't. What are you talking about? What you've got is a captive audience, not a captivating content. You've got people that are desperate to watch these races, and the only way they can watch them is watching through your really bad Facebook Live coverage and commentary. I mean, come on. You can't, yes, 56 million people have watched 17 races across the globe and numbers wise, but that's because they've got to, because the only way they can watch Ironman races or these races they do want to watch is through bloody Facebook Now, whatever it's called.
I want to stop this because it is. I refuse to believe it's 56 million people. I think it's 56 million views. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, it must be. The data doesn't. Yeah.
Plus, again, if there's 21 races, it's not 56 in total. Like a lot of those people have probably watched multiple of those races. Like I see them. We saw the Collins Cup do the same thing. We see Super League. Like all these brands always talk about. Oh, we've had 1 million, billion, trillion, quadrillion viewers watch our thing. And it's like. We know you haven't. Like,
have you really?
It's like that Dr. Evil thing where it's like 1 quadrillion, like just make up some gigantic number. That would be like, I mean, nearly 56. I'm probably 1 million of those views alone, mate. Like I've watched this stuff when I'm on the trainer all the time. Like I don't think I mean, it's a very big number and it's great to see, but I don't think it tells the whole story. And like, I think, I mean, that thing about unparalleled live event, no, it's not. It's not. It really isn't. We've seen better live coverage at other races.
Their job is to sell what they do. So obviously they're not going to be like, we do
middle in success.
Slightly wank coverage of our races for the year.
Some people watch Triathlon this year.
Yeah.
Some people.
So I get that they're marketing themselves and cool. But in terms of a response, like, no, it's just not. And what tuning into Facebook Now or Ironman Now, whatever it is, it's never enthralling. I watched the 70.3 Worlds. I haven't watched a huge amount of Ironman races this year because it's a big commitment of time for not a huge return on the entertainment value. But I got to tell you, man, I would have watched Cozumel. So would a lot of people.
I would have too. Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, there's nothing I love more. There's nothing I love more than having to get my laptop, get my Facebook account set up the Facebook Now, put it on full screen, get the HDMI cable from my TV, plug the HDMI cable into my laptop so I don't have to sit.
I know.
When it was Florida that Gustav did his incredible debut a few weeks ago, I actually just couldn't be bothered. And I was like, I just put the MacBook in front of me on the coffee table. I was like, this will do. And I'll even be honest, because it was middle of the night, I just skipped through a lot of it and then watched the last maybe hour. But yeah, I think one of the things I've loved about Super League in particular, and the Collins Cup I'll give too, was it was just on my TV. It was on the sport. Yeah. The sports channel had it. I flicked the button and there it was in all its HD wonder, and it was very, very good. So I think there's still room for improvement.
It was on the BBC over here, and you could just watch it, and it was ideal.
What about these Fighting Chance documentaries? Have you watched any of them?
Good podcasting, that, isn't it?
No, I think that's the sort of point I want to make though. Is I saw them. They started to do I mean, it seems like every race series is doing these at the moment, but I swear that series is the Ironman sort of trying to react to the PTO, and I feel like this press release coming out being like, "We are the greatest at this." I think that's also maybe a bit of a response to the PTO. Again, it's very easy for me to hypothesize and speculate, but I feel like this attention they're bringing on it is about that. But I mean, again, always give them credit when it's due. They did cover 20 odd races this year. And again, you said it, starved for content. That's a lot more than we probably got in the past. And the coverage, it's not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful. Like, it's watchable. It's serviceable. I wish that they would maybe stop saying Didi's name 55,000 times an episode. That'd be a huge bonus. I mean, I don't know if somebody out there can build like a bot on my computer that can just automatically like silence that. And again, this isn't I really like Didi. I think she's incredible athlete. What she did in Cozumel recently was incredible, but stop saying her name. I know who she is. I know it. Oh, yeah.
I was talking to you. Like 9 times in the last minute. Anyway.
I can't help it, mate. I guess I get why that happens now. It's rubbed off on me. It's ingrained in me.
But imagine if this was true. Imagine how easy it would be to knock this ball out the park. They've got 56 million clicks, views, whatever. So there's an audience out there that is starved for this content. It's starved to see these live races. And imagine if if this sentence, Ironman delivers unparalleled live event broadcast coverage to a captivating content on Facebook Watch, and we were just like, yeah, they did. It was amazing.
Mm.
Imagine that. It can't be that hard. Somebody's going to come along at some point. The PTO haven't done it yet. Ironman haven't done it yet. Super League are doing really good job. WTCS is just
Not doing it.
oh yeah. And
Not
so
doing
come
it.
on, imagine how easy it would be for someone to come along and actually really knock this out of the park and deliver outstanding race coverage.
What do you? I'm skipping ahead, but Clash Daytona. What did you think of the broadcast? First, how easy did you find it? How easy did you find it to sign up for the broadcast, James Bale, that you had to pay for? Was that an easy process for you, mate? Did you get your bank details stolen?
I have never been so annoyed trying to do something in my life. And then I was reaching out I was like, can anybody help me with this? I can't make this work. And I was getting sent links and they were the wrong links. So they were taking me to these weird pages, and I put my bank details in, and my bank details got stolen. And then I had to shut my bank account down. And then the bank rings me, and they're like, someone in some fucking country somewhere is using your bank details, and I'm like, ah. So then eventually you hooked me up with the right link, and it was really easy. Once I had the right link, I just clicked it, and it went, yeah, you've paid for it, no worries. I didn't have to enter any bank details, which I shouldn't have done in the first place. And yeah. So that was fun. But yeah, I only saw the very end of that race because I was late to the party because I had to spend an hour and a half on the phone to the bank trying to resolve my issues. What did you think of the coverage of Clash Daytona?
It was the same. I thought it was the same as we've seen. Like it's fine. People were like, "Oh, this coverage is excellent." Like it's not. I don't know whether I'm just impossible to please. I don't think I didn't notice it was bad or good, so therefore I think it's good. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I'm not going, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Yeah, but I'm also not sitting there going,
it's not ruining your day.
I've not heard the word Didi at all. Like it's incredible. Like I also, again, always Belinda Granger is very good in commentary, and Tim O'Donnell was in commentary at Clash Daytona, and he was excellent. Like,
yeah, who else
having Tim O'Donnell in it? Rick. I can never remember he's the NASCAR guy. What's his name? I don't know because I don't know NASCAR. Is it even Rick? Someone. There's the NASCAR guy. He's very, very good too. But he provides that sort of like he's the audience's window into the sport who maybe aren't familiar. But yeah, I thought Tim O'Donnell did an excellent job. So,
but I think you're right. Well, your point you say about it not being shit is good enough for triathlon. Is kind of where we're at. If it's not bad enough to notice that it's bad, you're kind of like, oh, this is really good because you're so used to going, I can't see what I want to see. Whereas if you watch last weekend, I watched the Formula One race, yeah, and their coverage is outstanding.
Yeah,
you know the stuff they put into it, the graphics, the you're just like, that's what sports coverage should be. That's what sports broadcast should be. Even the cricket, you watch the cricket, it's bloody incredible.
It's really good.
As well,
It's really good to watch at the moment.
With all the lines and the balls and everything. It's very good.
I like that you keep bringing up the cricket. Currently. I could literally do this whole podcast talking about cricket at the moment, but we're not going to. We're going to move on, James Bell, to the next article, which comes from Tim Moria at Triathlon Today. And that is that Patrick Lang and Annie Haug have claimed the Challenge Family World bonuses. Patrick Lang and Annie Haug both credit $30,000 to their bank accounts. The victory in the Challenge Family World bonus actually couldn't slip out of their hands anymore, but after Clash Daytona, their victory is official. Further down the rankings, the Daytona men's race really shook things up. Patrick Lang's lead was never under threat, but Magnus Ditlev's outstanding performance at Daytona saw him leap from 8th to 2nd in the world bonus rankings. Ditlev showed his dominance on the bike and held off seemingly unstoppable Kristian Blummenfelt for the first laps of the run. We'll talk about that part later. He made an extra $20,000 as a result of that performance. So the final men's world bonus standings are Patrick Langer in first place, who gets $30,000, Magnus Ditlev in second with $20,000, and Frederik Funk in third place with $14,000. In the women's standings, while Annie Haug's dominance at the top of the world bonus table was never in question, there was a chance Laura Siddle could knock Nicola Spirig down to 5th with points from Daytona, but her 5th place finish ensured Spirig stayed safe. Lucy Hall once again showed her class, and she didn't win, but the final, she got 3rd in the world bonus. So final women's stand-ins are Annie Hagen first place, 30,000. Second place, Sarisa De Vires, 20,000. Third place, Lucy Hall, $14,000. The total amount for Challenge Family World bonus was $150,000. Not bad, Jimbo.
No, man, I like these numbers. Again, it's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean compared to other sports that we talk about and watch between ourselves, not on the podcast, obviously, because we don't talk about other sports on the podcast, do we? It's triathlon only.
Except cricket.
But
except cricket.
But yeah, I like these numbers, and it's good, and it's good that there is some it adds some weight to the series and to where people finish and where people don't, and it's just fantastic to see Magnus do what he did at the weekend and get that extra $20,000 bonus out of this. So I'm really pleased for him, and obviously Patrick Lang and Anne Haug have had fantastic years and well deserved top rankings on this series.
Can I ask a question about this? Because I also love the numbers. I think it's fantastic that there's the revenue for the pro athletes. But do you think this, as a viewer, as a fan of triathlon, has this changed your viewing experience? Like, I'll be honest, I didn't even know this existed until they said at the end of the race that Magnus had gone into second place. I was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, I've got to tell you, this as a series didn't enter my consciousness until I'd finally got onto the Clash Daytona thing. My bank account had been emptied, and someone said someone else is getting a big bonus for winning this race. And I was just like, well, fucking hell, I could do that right now.
Maybe that's how they funded. Maybe all those links that go out there are actually challenge. Well, we need to fund these bonuses somehow. The question I want to, do you think that the bonus, and again, purely hypothesizing, sorry, listeners, do you think that the $150,000 put towards the bonuses is the best use, considering we've got the PTO bonus system? Or do you think putting all that money into one event with a big prize purse, big, do you think that would be more beneficial? What do you think what would give you the best bang for the, what would elevate the racing more, the bonus or a big prize purse?
Broadcast. So neither of those things. I'm not particularly worried about. A prize purse has to be enough to get a good field, and the bonus is what it is for the series. But ultimately, to elevate the racing for the audience, the broadcast is the key.
Okay, well, there you go. Perfect. Let's move on. Now, I put this one in, James Bale, mostly for you, but we did touch on this a few weeks ago. Remember, we were talking about the guy who's averaging some crazy speed for his Ironmans every race, like a sub 11 an hour. He crashed his bike and he had to borrow a bike and got all this stuff. He's done it. He has set a new record for 60 full distance races in 60 days. I got this from Triathlon today. I'm not going to go through all of the details, but he averaged... his last time was 10 hours, 28:07. He averaged under 11 hours for every single one. He averaged 10 hours, 57 minutes, 40 seconds for every single Ironman he did 60 days in a row. Not too bad, mate. Averaging 3 hours, 14:39 for his marathon. What do you reckon? 60 days of that in a row?
I don't know whether I'm just softening in my as we go through the podcast, but I quite like this, because he didn't mess about. 10:57, 40 average for pace for a full distance is quick, and averaging 3:14:39 for his marathons is also quick. So he's not just gone out and dragged a broken body through walking an Ironman every day for 60 days. And everyone's just like, mate, why are you doing this?
You're an inspiration.
Yeah, I don't know why he's doing it, but it's pretty cool that he's done it. And I like the speed at which he did it. And he must be so broken, dude.
I know.
Imagine how broken you'd be.
No, I've never done an Ironman, let alone 60 of them in a row. So no thanks. I think you make a really good point. I like the fact that he's actually gone out and raced it. Like, he is not just like, I'm going to do this he's actually had a bit of a dig. And that's, I reckon a lot of people listening to this podcast would happily take a sub 11 hour Ironman, let alone doing it 60 days in a row. Like, it's very, very impressive. And I think that's what I like. Yeah, I like that it's not just the tick in the box. It is ticking the box, but it's more than just ticking the box. And that's what I think is quite cool about this. The last two, the guy who did it around the world was awesome. And this one's awesome. Yeah. I think
I like the. Yeah. I want the guy. I'm desperate for a guy that did it. I'm desperate for a guy that did it around the world. I'm desperate for the guy that did it around the world to release a documentary because I want to see it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We should get Manus Studios to do it after what they did with Kristian's documentary this week, which came out. We'll talk about that later. On to races, mate, because there were a few races over the weekend. I thought we're going to start with one that had a bit of controversy around it. and that is Ironman 70.3 Indian Wells. Now, how much do you know about this race before we get into it? What are the things you do know about it?
Well, I mean, the key information I know from it is the controversial point that we're going to talk about. Other than that, I mean, I know who won and who didn't.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Got this from Tri24/7, and it just listed editor. So I'm guessing that's John. It might not be. Hot tip, guys. I think John Levinson should probably win Triathlon Media Person of the Year this year in the podcast awards. Not trying to influence things. Lionel Sanders ended a grueling 2021 in style by winning 70.3 Indian Wells on Sunday, making it 3 wins from 3 starts at the venue. The 33-year-old Canadian has taken on just about every conceivable challenge this year, including 5 races over the full Ironman distance, 4 of them in under 3 months during the summer, and most of them under 8 hours. He chose to end his 2021 by coming back down in distance to the 70.3 format to take on the ITU boys, as he put it, notably French superstar Vincent Louis and Belgian Jelle Gaines. But we're going to talk about the women's race first, Jimbo. Hayley Chura, as usual, blasted off to take the early advantage in the swim, clocking a 24:30 to lead by well over a minute from the chasing group. Lewis produced a terrific best bike split of the day of 2:15.52 to move up to second as they went into T2, with only Dane Linner-Tams ahead of her by some 27 seconds. A deficit of almost 10 minutes at T2 would have left almost anyone out of contention, but that doesn't apply when you're Tamara Jewett. Danielle soon took over the front of the run as teams began to fall back, and while Ali Brouwer was in second, the only real threat to Lewis was further back in the shape of the flying Canadian Jewett. She had started the run more than 9 minutes off the lead and was taking big chunks out of the gap. Tamara had too much to do, though, and while she passed Brouwer for second and managed to get within a minute of Lewis, she was forced to settle for second spot despite running a 1:16 run split. Brouwer claimed the final spot on the podium, while another Canadian, Dominika Jaminke, claimed fourth, and Aussie Grace Steck rounded out the top 5. So in first place, Danielle Lewis, second place, Tamara Jewett, third place, Ali Brouwer. On to the men's race, Jimbo, and this is the one you spoke about. Louis exited the water in 22:09 with an advantage of just over a minute over the chasing pack headed by Andy Potts and Jelle Gaines. Sanders, meanwhile, was 24th out of the water, just under 3 minutes off the lead, a deficit which would extend further as Louis put his short course transition speed to good use to gain a further 16 seconds over Sanders. There was drama on the bike leg, though, as Louis was reportedly struck by a car. And per those updates, this was updated by his girlfriend, Taylor Spivey, friend of the show. By the time T2 arrived, Sanders was now in front with Louis just seconds behind. WTCS Abu Dhabi winner Gaines was more than 5 minutes in arrears after receiving a 5-minute drafting penalty. He still had 21 kilometres to display his impressive run prowess. Vince, reportedly with blood on his face and considerable road rash, ran with Sanders for the first 6 kilometres of the run before the Canadians started to pull away. First the gap was 5 seconds, then 16, then 48 as the Canadian put the race to bed. The gap at the line was just under 3 minutes as the valiant Lewis came home in second spot. Gaines was more than 4 minutes behind Sanders in third, with American Chris Lefferman and Trevor Foley fourth and fifth. A 1:08 run split from Gaines was the quickest of the day and will ensure that he ticks the qualification box for the 2022 Ironman 70.3 World Championship. So first place, Lionel Sanders, second place, Vincent Louis, and third place, Jelle Gaines. Jimbo, this is the one I wanted to talk about. What do you reckon about this race?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's unreal, isn't it? That Ironman can allow that sort of thing to happen, where one of the professional, where anybody shouldn't be hit by a car, but one of their professional athletes gets hit by a car during the race is terrible. I saw a post from Taylor Spivey, who's Vince's girlfriend,
significant other.
Yeah, to clarify, the lead car was clearly marked, very visible, written on the front in big neon letters. A police officer directing traffic blocked the course, the straight line, by standing in the middle of the road. He pointed to the lead car and Vince to turn off course. The referee motorcycle followed them and wanted to give Vince a penalty after the car hit him for going off course. The lead car knew the course but had no other option but to go off. So there was a police officer standing in the road, directing them off the course. The car obviously did what he was told and followed, and then Vince got hit by the car, and then the referee motorcycle behind him, after he'd hit by the car, wanted to give him a penalty for it. Good work, man.
Yeah, I got this. Afterwards, Louis, bloodied and battered from the scrape with an automobile in California, said on Instagram, "Second Indian Wells today for my first 70.3. I swam well and was pushing good watts. With 10 kilometers to go, I still had a 2-minute lead. But then a car hit me and I hit the ground really hard. Jumped back on my bike and reached T2 with Lionel Sanders. My run was just a struggle and my only goal was to reach the finish line and have a checkup with a doctor. Congrats to Lionel for the win and Jelle for third. Sanders, meanwhile, has clearly been looking forward to a battle with the short course guys. So he was left with mixed feelings after his win. Speaking on Instagram, he said, "Strange feelings after this one. Came in looking for a battle, but my competitors unfortunately had a lot of adversity. Vince Louis got hit by a car, and his tough as nails and got back up and persevered onwards. Yellow Gaines had his own adversity, but went on to have the day's fastest run. I'm happy with my performance, but look forward to the rematch against these guys." I mean, say what you will about the other stuff. Lionel Sanders had a very impressive performance for a 3:38, and I think he ran like 1:09 or something. Like maybe I've got that number wrong. I remember seeing that somewhere that he ran a very, very fast half marathon. But mate, Lionel Sanders, mate, I've been so impressed with him this year. Like talk about it's been a ride, man.
I was about to say, I think something's happening with Lionel. I think there is an elevation of his output and his performances, and I'm very excited to see what he can do next year. I mean, I
have some insight into this. I was speaking to an unnamed source this week about Lionel Sanders, and they were saying that they saw he was doing his Ironman build video or something on his YouTube channel a while ago, and this was a short course athlete who was shocked to find that they were doing 10 hours a week more training than Lionel was, and they were training for short course triathlon. And they think that what's probably happened is now that Lionel's working with Mikel, again, I know Mikel listens, I'm not sure, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he's probably just upped his volume a lot, so that he's probably doing a much higher volume and his body's responding well to it. But I definitely feel like we are seeing that. Lionel has gone, in my opinion, to it. Like, again, we tend to focus on the poor performances like he had at Coeur d'Alene where he walked, but that sprint finish with Sam Long is still one of the best performances of this year. Watching him back up at the Collins Cup crashing and still having the race he had, a week after an Ironman, one of the best performances, I think, of this year. Watching what he did with Gustav, running a 1:15 half and still finishing second, one of the best performances of the year. Like, I every time I see Lionel race this year, I am so impressed by him, and I really think that the focus of this race is about Vince's crash, which it definitely needs to be talked about. But we do need to give Lionel his praise because, again, a very, very, very strong performance against two really good guys. So, yeah Lionel Sanders is fantastic.
He sticks with it. I hope he sticks with it. I hope he stays on this course because I think he's found a happy place with his new coach, with whatever other changes he's made around him. And I really, really think that the next few years will create key for him now to see what he can achieve and how good he can actually be. And I hope he sticks with it, mate, and doesn't pull a line up.
Here's a question for you though. Like I see this race. Do you think he regrets not doing 70.3 worlds? Do you think he goes, fucking hell, I reckon I could have podiumed there. I could have got that podium at 70.3 worlds. I don't think he would have won it. I think Gustav was unbeatable that day, but he could have got a podium there.
I don't know. I don't think it's his style to look backwards and regret
that's
what
fair.
He has and hasn't done. I think he's like a fucking metronomic force of nature and he's just onwards. So I think for him, the best thing he can do is stick with what he's doing and go at it in terms of next year and the year after and see what he can achieve. Because
I love to see it.
The bar is being raised as long as they all stay on course and don't get hit by a car. And that Ironman, I've got some questions to answer about that as to how that was allowed to happen.
Yeah, I spoke with Chris about this on the bonus episode we recorded this week. We spoke about it a lot, actually, because something similar happened in Western Australia. We've not gone through the results, but a car crashed through, a drunk driver crashed through the finish barricade or something at Ironman Western Australia this weekend. And we've heard a lot of these things happening more and more. And that's what I said to Chris is like, if it happens, I asked him as Super League, director or, founder of Super League, if you had that happen once, would you not do everything in your power to make it happen again? And as he said, the problem is that these races their license fees become more and more expensive. So the organisers have to find ways to recoup their costs, and that's when corners start to get cut, and that's why these things maybe happen. I don't know. It's very complicated. But aside from that, I do want to talk about the women's race a little bit because Tamara Jewett, we always talk about the momentum. Mate, she nearly ran down a 10-minute gap in a 70.3. Like that is mind-blowing. This girl can run like the clappers. And once she gets her swim sorted and probably bike up a little bit, man, she, like we talked about with Gwen Jurgensen doing long course, she could be a real threat, mate.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely could be. Because like you were saying earlier, and like we've often said, when you get to 70.3 distance and above, it really is that killer run that can turn the tide and make the difference. And she's proving on this occasion that she's got that. and much more to come, eh?
Definitely. Definitely. Well, look, mate, we're going to talk about another race. In fact, we're going to talk about a World Championship race that happened over the weekend. And I know we're both pretty excited to talk about this one because we're big fans of both of the winners. And that is Xterra. The Xterra World Championships happened in Maui. I got this summary from John Levinson at Tri 24/7. He said, rather than a pandemic, it was hazardous water conditions at DT Fleming Beach, which led to the cancellation of the scheduled 1.5 kilometre swim. In its place came an additional 3 kilometre run, resulting in a duathlon format for the final major event of the 2021 season. We'll look at the women's race first. When you're Flora Duffy, in truth, the race format is unlikely to have much of an impact on the final result. Given her skills across every discipline and format for the sport, that wouldn't change here. Some 18 seconds clear of Michelle Filippo from Mexico after the opening run, Flora finished the bike leg more than 4 minutes clear of Loanne Duvesson. When you are the Olympic triathlon champion running a 33-minute 10-kilometre in the process, the final 11-kilometre trail run was always going to be a 2021 season lap of honour, and what a season. She finished the race collecting a 6th Xterra World Championship with a lead of more than 7 minutes. That's an 11th career World Championship title for those who are counting. So in first place, Flora Duffy from 2:39. Second place, Loanne Duvesson, 2:46. And third place, Michelle Filippo, 2:50. Flora Duffy, mate, is incredible.
What a time we're living in.
Yeah.
Right? And you've got the women's Olympic gold medalist, carrying on her season and winning the Xterra World Championship further down the road. And then you've got the men's gold medalist then setting an Ironman record at Cozumel and aiming for a sub-7 next year. We're living in truly glorious triathlon times, mate. And Flora Duffy is outstanding.
She's so good.
Yeah, she really is. And she's got so many options available to her for the future as to where she's going to go and what she's going to do. And I'm excited
she could literally do anything, I think. Any distance, any sort of racing. I think she could do any of them, and I think she would dominate. It has got to be one of the most impressive seasons of racing. Man. I think she's going to win another gold medal. I think she's going to win gold at the Commonwealth Games next year. And then, it's so good. Flora Duffy is, I think she's going to be winning a podcast award next week, if I'm honest, mate.
Yeah, man. Running a 33-minute 10K as well after a mountain bike, No,
that was what she ran at the Olympics, I think.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I missed that.
This is an 11K trail run.
Yeah. Apologies.
Well, let's continue the Olympic theme, because in the men's race, New Zealand's Hayden Wilde, who earned a bronze medal in Tokyo, was crowned as world champion. An exceptional run on the track. Wilde gained an advantage of around 20 seconds over the short opening run, but that was certainly not going to be decisive with the bike and a long second run ahead. There was little to separate the leaders after the 31-kilometre bike, with Arthur Series, Ruben Ruzafa, and Seth Ryder, and Wilde just seconds apart. Unlike Flora's untroubled victory, the run would determine the men's podium. It may have been off-road, but Wilde was able to utilise his track and road running speed to take a narrow win, crossing the line 23 seconds clear of Series, with Ruzafa adding a bronze medal to his Xterra collection by completing the podium. Hayden Wilde, Xterra world champion, what a legend.
Yeah, man, I actually had a chat with Hayden on the phone after this race, and he said he was a bit gutted when the swim was cancelled because he'd have put 4 minutes into the rest of them.
And Hayden, I love you, mate. You're not the best swimmer in the sport either, so that's.
But then he said he wasn't at his best on this day. He wasn't at sort of Olympic finals type form, but he still enjoyed it, and he enjoyed the mountain bike element of the run, and obviously winning at the World Championship. So again, we're living in parallel times. We've got Olympic bronze medalist then winning the Xterra World Championship later in the year. And he's finally managed to get himself back into New Zealand. So he's flying home soon to New Zealand for his well-deserved break.
Thing is, I think a lot of people don't realise is Hayden has a history of Xterra racing as a junior. I think he has a few Xterra Junior World Championship titles. Like, he's very, very good at this style of racing. And, I mean, to have the year that Hayden's had this year, like, I'm just so happy for him because, again, we both think the world of Hayden, and for him to finish like the way he's wrapped up this year has just it's fantastic to see, because he's always come, third at the Olympics, which again, that's not nothing to make fun of or talk down. And then he was so close at Super League, he kept just missing out. So to come here, wrap up his season with that win and get a world title at the same time, perfect. And I saw he put up a post asking Jan Frodeno if he wore the wreath, right? And I saw Jan repost. I was like, I don't know, mine never had roses in it, and that made me chuckle. So that was a good little bit of banter between the boys.
I saw his Instagram post. I've got to tell you, mate, I didn't like his sunglasses. Fucking hell, Hayden, get some better sunglasses, mate. Other than that, well done, old boy.
I feel like I saw a meme. I think I saw a meme of his sunglasses. I don't know, maybe you sent it to me. I can't remember. It's all merging into one. I think that's it, though. There was no other races. Nothing else to talk about this week, mate. We're just
No, nothing else. Done.
Of course not, guys. Don't worry. We're just joshing you because there was Clash Daytona. The big race one of the big races over the weekend obviously unfolded in Daytona. Mate, we've got the summary here, or do you just want to have a chat about it?
I think we just have a chat about it. I mean, most of my Clash Daytona viewing experience was taking up dealing with my bank issues and trying to actually be able to view the thing. So I missed the women's race entirely, I'm afraid. So I'm going to lean on you for the women's feedback. What did you think of the women's race?
I thought the women's race was very, very fascinating, and was that sort of thing we've seen happen in a lot of other races. So Lucy Hall, very good swimmer, 2012 Olympian, swam really well, rode really well, and then it was just a case of, can Lucy Hall hang on? And the answer was no, she cannot, because Jackie Herring caught her like literally just before the final turn off the course into the finish chute, and it must have been heartbreaking for Lucy, because to lead for like 98% of that race and then to stumble at the final thing must have been, pretty hard to swallow. But Jackie Herring can run, and again, I think it was really, really strong performance to see she didn't give up. And it was fascinating hearing them talking about Tim O'Donnell and Belinda Granger's incredible commentary about what boost Jackie will get when she can see Lucy. And yeah, sure enough, she sort of sped up, and mate, what a pass it was. She went past her like a freight train. Like, you ain't coming with me. She surged so well, went past Lucy. It just looked like Lucy was standing still, to be honest. And then obviously I struggle with her name, the French girl who came third. I'm struggling to remember her name. Marjolaine Pierre. So Jodie Stimson, we thought, was in third place. It was like, can Jodie repeat what she did at Miami and run up to the lead as well? And then as they come on the finish line, Marjolaine she's ahead of Jodie Stimson. We didn't see the unfold, but she must have just pipped at some point for third place. What a performance, mate! It was very, very exciting. Again, that's probably one of the only criticisms I have of that broadcast, was I really would have liked to have seen that battle for third, because I think it would have been incredible to see the way that Marjolaine was coming up to Jodie, and then when she passed her, and because I quite like that stuff. So the women's racing was very, very good. I mean, was it as good as last year's? No, very different field, but I still think the quality of racing was really, really good, and yeah, it was entertaining. So that's the women's race. What about the men's, mate? I know you've got a bit more to say.
Lucy Hall has had such a good year, and she's really turned herself from this person that people think was a really strong swimmer and then faded through the rest of the race. She's now putting out really complete race packages, and I'm really pleased to see that, because I think she's got a lot more to come as well. So I'm just want to say that I think despite getting past right at the end of this race, I think she's got a lot of positives to be taken away from this year.
She seems to be getting better. That's a good thing, because she's got plenty of time ahead of her too. So yeah. But on to the men's race, mate. It was, what was that?
I was going to say the men's race then. So basically, Ditlev went for it on the bike, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And he did, mate. He put, 2.5 minutes in a Christian? Something crazy like that?
Two and a half, lit the afterburners on the bike, put 2.5 minutes into the Olympic gold medalist, and then it came down to a straight, could Kristian catch Magnus? Because there was no one else really in the picture. Magnus, because of his stature and because of his height, he always looks like he's running a bit slower than he actually is, because he kind of lumbers. But he wasn't running as fast as Kristian. We can say that, because Kristian caught and passed him and then put some time into him. But a very, very strong performance from Magnus Ditlev, but a incredible performance from Kristian Blummenfelt, who looked like he was like not struggling, but kind of, I don't know. He looked happy. Don't see that very often from him.
Yeah. Should we drop our interview in now and then come back and we'll discuss the rest of the race, or do you want to? How do you want to do it?
No, let's drop the interview in now.
We'll be back afterwards.
But yeah, as we said, we're joined this week by Danish athlete Magnus Ditlev, one of the stars of long course triathlon. Currently ranked 15th in the PTO rankings. This year, he's seen success with victories at Challenge Budvar, Ironman 70.3 Portugal, whilst recently finishing second behind Kristian Blummenfelt at Clash Daytona. A powerhouse on the bike, but not to be underestimated on the run. Magnus has plenty more to come. Mate, how's things?
Good. Thank you, James. It's good to be on the podcast, and great to be back home in Denmark after a long season. So I'm just, I got back Tuesday, and now I'm just relaxing for a few weeks.
Yeah. How did you pull up after the weekend?
It was like it's probably most of jet lag now. I'm used to training quite a lot, so it's not that I get very sore after a race. Now it's just all the traveling back and forth that really gets the body tired.
What was the traveling like at the moment? Was it easy to get in and out and do what you needed to do, or were there extra difficulties involved?
So they actually they have removed some of all the the restrictions they had for traveling to the United States. So, for instance, last year when I had to travel to Daytona, it was much more complicated. So this time it was actually almost a pleasure to travel like normal again.
Fair enough. So it's been a big year, mate. It's been a big year for you. What have the highlights been from your perspective?
As you say, I think I counted, I've raced 11 middle distance events, so it has really been a long season. Started off in Miami, going toe to toe against Jan Frodeno, and there I didn't have the best run in my life, but it was a huge experience just to be able to bridge the gap to him on the bike and even put him under pressure and enter T2 with a little gap, and then he overtook me on the run. But some of the highlights for the first part of the season is definitely my race in 70.3 St. George, where I was part of the famous battle between Sanders and Sam Long for a short period of time. And then for the second half of the season, my main goal should have been 70.3 Worlds and Collins Cup if I was selected for that. But unfortunately, I wasn't selected for Team Europe. And the week before 70.3 Worlds, I got sick. So I had to lay in my bed for 4 days straight without even going out of my house. And when you train more than 35 hours a week, then that's not really productive for your tapering. So, but I took the chance and traveled to the United States quite late. So I had to rebook my flights and stuff, but got to St. George, and in the race, I just felt empty. So I ended up 8th. And after that, I was thinking if I should just take a break and say that this was my season, go on off season, start preparing early for next year, or if I should just go out and do a lot of races. There was still plenty of races to choose from. And so I chose the second option, and I raced 3 times in 3 weekends in a row in October in Montenegro, Mallorca, and Portugal, and then recently in Daytona. And it was like 4 podiums in the last 4 races. So that's definitely been, this period has been the best one in my season so far.
Yeah, it was a good choice, I think, to keep racing, wasn't it? Because you had that, that 3-week block where you went first, third, first, and then a second place in Daytona. So it was a very, very decent period for you there. Started with Challenge Budvar, though, didn't it? Which is a race you won. Tell us about the circumstances in which that came about. Because there was a DQ on the cards at one point, wasn't there?
Yeah, there were many things on the card. I think at first it was, if I talk through the competition, then I had not the best swim, but managed pretty quickly to bridge the gap to the front where Patrick Lange was riding. And I had thought that maybe when I bridge the gap, take a little break and stay behind him for a while, but I lapped my bike computer, and I just saw the numbers were not... that was like riding recovery almost for me. So I just decided to go straight past him and try to get an early gap. And I managed to get the gap almost immediately and just rode the rest of the bike course alone. and then entered T2 with maybe 4.5 minutes down to second, and actually felt really strong on the run. So I was running the best I've ever been, cruising in like 3:20 pace, and actually being able to push it even harder throughout the entire run. But then at some point it was a two lap course. Uh, at some point on the second lap, the lead bike told me that he had showed me the wrong way, and but he had been talking to someone from the organization that said that on our way back we could just do a loop twice that we missed on the first lap, and then everything would be okay. And then at that point I was leading with more than, I think, maybe 6 to 7 minutes. So I just said to him that's fine, because he said it was only a matter of a few 100 meters, so that was no problem for me. So when we got to the point where he thought that we had done took the wrong way, I did a loop 2 times and then ran to the finish line and thought I had won. And then it showed that the loop we did was actually a wrong loop. So first I was directed the wrong way, and then tried to compensate by doing a loop they told me to do that showed to be a wrong loop. So I ended up maybe running 400 to 500 meters short. Uh, and at first they gave me a 5 minute penalty, which I could see why they did that, but still I wasn't happy, because 5 minutes is quite a lot now that they have the PTO rankings.
But you'd still have won
so
at that point, wouldn't you? You'd still have
yeah,
won the
exactly.
race.
I would still have won with more than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I went home. I wasn't really happy about the decision, but came back to the awards where they told me that they've decided to disqualify me instead. And then all hell broke loose. So it's good that I had some people that could help me with that, because
Yeah, I mean, they quite rightly reinstated you after a conversation, didn't they? And you
yeah,
got
exactly.
you got the win, and so all's well that ends well. But sounds like
Yeah,
there's a
that
bit of
was
work
quite.
to do behind the scenes to make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen again, eh?
Yeah, exactly. That was, and I'm not very good at handling such situations. So,
But then
yeah,
you bounced into a third place at the next race,
yeah.
but then followed that up with a first place at Ironman 70.3 Portugal. What was that period of racing like? What's it like racing week on week on week for 3 weeks in a row?
Yeah, so it's my first time as a professional. That while I was racing like age group before, I had tried to race 2 times in a row, but it was my first time as a professional, and I've never tried racing 3 times in a row. So it was quite a really nice period for me, because my girlfriend is also doing triathlon, so she was with me throughout all the 3 races, and she was supposed to do WTCS Abu Dhabi.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like taking it as a training camp while I was racing those. So we were just out there exploring new roads and new places, Montenegro and Mallorca and Portugal. So it was really nice, and it also, I think, taught me some things about racing that maybe I like. I'm it when you race 3 times in a row. You can't be really focused 100% like you usually are. So I was more relaxed going into the races, and I wasn't as stressed as I normally am. So it was quite a learning experience for me in that regard.
Do you think that helped? Do you think the taking the pressure off yourself a little bit and not feeling the stress helped bring those results and those podiums?
Yeah, definitely. Also, just being able with someone, or being alongside someone you like and love, and yeah, it was just a really nice time where we had a lot of fun in between.
Whilst taking some solid results at the same time. So
Yeah,
let's talk about Daytona. The Clash Daytona just happened. Second place to the current Olympic champion and current Ironman record holder, Kristian Blummenfelt. You went off the front on the bike and put some distance between you and the pack. What was it like out there?
yeah. It's like it's third time I'm racing there, so it was quite an emotional. It's quite an emotional race for me. It was like, I think, maybe the second race or something like I did as a professional. So I've been there whilst being a complete noob to last year, which was probably my breakthrough, and now this year, where yeah, it was just cool to be able to come back and deliver a great result.
You had quite the gap on the field when you got to T2. What was your transition like off the bike?
Both T1 and T2 were not very good. I think I lost more than half a minute to Kristian alone in those transitions. So, but I thought I've like watched the transition 2 afterwards, and I can see that I'm wasting quite a lot of time on taking on my number belt in the transition zone, standing still, while I see that many of the other pros, they are just running out of the transitions while taking it over their head and stuff. So I actually thought that you should do it in the transition, but that's not it's not an excuse as to why I lost so much time. But yeah.
So when you set off on your run, were you thinking to yourself, I can hold off a charging Kristian Blummenfelt?
Yeah, so my goal was always to win.
Yeah, of course.
Actually, so but I had some because I traveled there alone. So also on the bike, I had some problems knowing where all the other guys were.
Yeah.
And on the bike, my power actually decreased quite a lot through the ride. So I was quite worried that they would. I knew I had a gap and I couldn't see them. I didn't know if it was 1 or 2 minutes, but I was quite worried towards the end of the bike that they might get very close to me because the power output just decreased more and more. Which I think it's quite all the other pros I talked to had the same, and that's also what I can see from the splits that I was actually increasing the time to second throughout the entire ride. So I think it's quite normal on that course. But so I entered T2 with quite it's not the best legs I've ever had on the bike, and a bit worried as to how the run would going to be. But I knew that I had been running really well in the 3 races I just did in October, so I had some hope. And then running out, one person yelled 3 minutes to second place, and the next one yelled 1 minute. So I still didn't quite know where the hell Kristian was. So it wasn't. I just tried to like focus on my own pace for the first 2 laps, and then when going out on the third lap, I could see Kristian was gaining quite a lot of time on me, which was quite frustrating to be honest because I didn't I think I lost like my head a little bit because I didn't have an overview of what was happening behind me. So it was like suddenly he was just there. Whereas if I had been told that actually on the first and second lap I was running second fastest of all the pro males, then I think my mindset would have been a little bit different. And but that's just how it is. And he was either way coming extremely fast from behind. And when he searched on me, I had nothing to do.
He certainly picked his cadence up a little bit as he came alongside you,
Yeah,
didn't he?
it was. Yeah, it's like watching. I'm quite tall with long legs, so I don't have the highest cadence. But he was just. I think he maybe had 200 RPMs, strides per minute at that point. So it was really cool to see.
But I mean, second place at one of the biggest last races of the year, finishing on the podium with Kristian Blummenfelt and beating the rest of the field by some distance. You must be fairly happy with that result.
Yeah, so I'm really happy with the result and also the races from October. I feel like I've been progressing throughout the year. I had some bumps while at the period around Samarin and 70.3 Worlds, but after that, I think it has been a really, really good end to the season. And I had a really good build. I was on training camp on Lanzarote after my races in October, and then went from Lanzarote to Daytona.
And so you've raced Kristian, you've raced Frodeno. What are you going to do now in your off season going into the next year to lift your level so that you can, next time Kristian Blummenfelt comes alongside you and raises his cadence, how do you approach bringing your game to the Norwegian threat?
I think it's mostly a matter of time. I think I've showed that my swim has improved quite a lot. Even if you compare from Daytona last year, I was, I think I was more than 2.5 minutes behind out of the water. And this year I actually was with the group until the last 400 meters, where the person in front of me unfortunately lost the feet of Kristian. So I had to try to go in front of him, but at that point it was too late. So I just tried to like maintain the same distance to the front group, but I think I was maybe 20 seconds after the front group this year. So but I still have some. It was not the biggest field, so it's maybe a little bit easier to for a weaker swimmer to get hit the first pack. So I still have some room for improvement on the swim, and then on the bike, I I don't think I've actually performed to the level I have in training on my bike yet.
That's
It's I'm
petrifying, mate. That's
Yeah,
petrifying
but
hearing that.
I think it's mainly because, and that's also what comes down to the run. It's like I've only been maybe running seriously for 2 years now, so I don't have the endurance to keep the pressure on for so long time at the moment. If you take my pure run speed right now, I can probably do a 10k just below 30 minutes, so it's quite good my pure run, but I think I still need to improve in like having the muscular endurance that takes to run well off a really hard bike. So that's
Okay.
definitely something that comes with time and the avoiding injuries.
So, talking about plans for the future, what are you looking backwards, mate? What was it that brought you into the sport of triathlon?
It's actually it's a bit not very typical way of doing it. I was never even a swimmer or, as many people think, a biker nor a runner. As a child, I just played a lot of football and almost lived in the place where we played football and badminton all the time. And in the breaks between classes, the only thing I could think about was when I could go out and play football. And so I was just very active from a young age. And then from, I think, the transition from what do you call it in English, primary to high school or something like that. It's very normal in Denmark that people go to a new place to like find out what they want to do with their what they want to study. And so but I decided to stay at the same area where I was, but all my friends they left, and so suddenly I had no team to play football on or badminton. So I had a lot of time where I didn't know what to do, and I was placed in a class in high school with two elite runners, and I had started like riding a bike with my father just for fun and to keep in shape. If some of the guys that went away would come back, and maybe we'll get a team. But then one day the elite runners they asked me if I wanted to come and join their athletic club and run with them, and I thought why not? And so I went there and started running with them, and so suddenly I was riding bikes with my father, running with the athletic club, and from a young age I had learned how to swim. It was no way competitive at all, but I knew how to swim. And I just think that one day the idea of doing a half Ironman just popped into my head. I don't really know how, but so I signed up for like a very small local half Ironman in Denmark and did that, and it went terrible. I think I walked more than I ran on the half marathon, but something inside me said that that was it was really cool. So 2 weeks later, I did another one. Still not very good, but so that's how I got into the sport, and then things sort of took on from there. At first, it was more my own like adventure. I was doing everything alone, running with the athletic club, but still doing all my swim and bike training alone. But then I reached a level where I was like competitive in age group fields and winning my category in 18 to 24, I think it's called. And then a guy from the triathlon club in Copenhagen, uh, he's the coach there and a professional triathlete himself. He like he got to me and contacted me and said, "Look, you can't. What you're doing is completely bullshit because I was like training way too much. So I was like tired all the time and injured all the time and didn't have any consistency at all. So he approached me and asked if I think it's better that I I help you out, and so I started training under his advice, and he coached me, and that's my coach now also. So that's how I got into the environment I'm training in now with the athletic triathlon club in Copenhagen, where we are like a group of maybe 5 to 10 young people, all my age or younger, that trains under the same coach, meet each other every day, and he like coordinates all our programs. So we also always have someone to train with.
And what is it about the sport and what you want to achieve in it that drives you onwards now? What 20 years time, what do you want to look back on and say, I did that and I got that out of my triathlon journey?
Obviously, there are some like result-oriented goals that I want to become world champion and so, but that's what everyone is saying. But I've also learned that it's much more about, for me, enjoying the lifestyle as a professional triathlete. I love going out and exploring new places on a bike with someone I like and just having a good time being active. And also, I think uh, I have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, so I've always been quite into science and physics and stuff. And I think there's a lot of things you can, not from maybe chemical engineering, but like the methodology you learn from studying engineering, you can transfer to triathlon. For instance, like biking aerodynamics and rolling resistance and all that stuff. That really, it's like things in the sport that really motivates me also to try to push not only my own body but also push everything around me and optimize every detail in my setup.
Now we know that you're a very good biker, and I know that you're with your interest in the sort of marginal gains and the details around the biking. You're quite into the technical side of it. Is the
Mm.
biking element your favorite of the three sports, or is it just happens to be that you're really good at it, but you actually love running or you love swimming?
I think it depends on on the season actually, because I live in Denmark and at the moment it's really cold and rainy and snows sometimes. So right now I don't like I don't love riding because I'm just sitting inside on Swift.
Yeah.
So, but it's like I don't feel I have one discipline that I maybe actually I love going out just for a run, new places, running in mountains and trails I've never been to before. That's really something I enjoy.
And I mean, you're one of the best bikers in long course triathlon, if not the best biker in long course triathlon at the moment. And you don't currently have a bike sponsor, do you?
No, that's true.
Yeah, so we
That's
need to
why.
get that out there because there's plenty of opportunity for you to lay down some serious watts over the next period of time and get some brands out there to see you on their machinery.
Yes, I think it's because of the COVID period. It has been really difficult to. Everyone is having a hard time. Also, the bike manufacturers. So I don't think I'm in a rush, but it would be lovely to get someone on board.
So, have you been paying attention to the sub 7, sub 8 challenge that's sort of being geared up at the moment? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I have. I think it's difficult not to 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 notice what's going on. And after I also talked to Kristian a little bit about it in Daytona, so I think it's also after what he did in Cozumel, it's only a matter of time before. And the way it's organized, it will be quite cool to see. I don't think the problem will be to break 7. I think it will just be cool to see how much faster you can get if you like organize all the things in the right way and have paces and so. So I think it will be, yeah, it will be interesting to see also how Alistair will come back, and you haven't heard from him in a long time, and he's partnered up with some new, I think wasn't it Ineos that he hired to help him, and So I think it's gonna be really interesting to see those two go head to head.
Have you ever ridden a team time trial?
Actually, not like in a official race, but the group we train with, we have. It was mostly before we started racing, like really professional, where we didn't, we weren't as concerned about being crashing and stuff, because then we used to go out quite often on different segments on Strava, and we are 3 to 4 young guys that are quite good at cycling that I'm training with. So we would take on all our equipment and disc wheel and suit, and then try to see how fast we can go on one of the local segments. So I think I'm quite used to going with 50 kilometers an hour and and sharing, taking turns and so.
It's not as easy, is it, to maintain that
No,
sort of
definitely
momentum
not.
as some of the naysayers are saying it will be? A team time trial is an entity in itself that comes with its own difficulties. What do you think are the difficulties that come with trying to maintain that sort of speed with a team of people?
The thing we found is that I can understand that the way Sub 7 will do it, it probably won't be a very technical course. But either, of course, if it is a technical course, then some people can go faster in the corners than others, and then you can't accelerate as quickly as the weaker ones out of the corners. But even when like doing what do you call it, turns on a straight road, you really have to be careful with how you when you go out in the wind and try to go into the pack again, and the other one is taking over. He has completely fresh legs, while the other one is has lactic acid all over his body. So the moment he has to come into the train again is really crucial when you are pushing everything you can, because it's so easy, especially at the beginning, to for the one that is taking the lead just to put out all he got in the turn set. But then the risk of blowing all the others up is very significant.
It's like a series of sprints, isn't it? Trying to catch on to the
Yeah,
back.
exactly.
Essentially, it's
Yeah.
it's it's a max effort
And you
to
have
get
to
back
have
on.
it's not like if you have one good and then two or three like on a lower level, is not it, then it's better to have people that are very similar in level, because otherwise the good one will just blow the other ones to pieces and very quickly.
So when are we going to see Magnus Ditlev do a full Ironman?
That's a good question. That's something I have been talking to about with my coach about, but I think no matter what, the focus will be on 70.3. We've like discussed it in regards to maybe getting some more attention and media and stuff. Maybe trying to do one and see if I can qualify for Kona, but it's definitely not like something I'm aiming at the moment. It would be a little side project and still 100% focus on 70.3s, because I'm still, as I told, very new in the endurance world. So trying to do a lot of Ironmans and training for an Ironman. So I don't think it would be beneficial for me to focus on that now if I want to become world champion in a few years, for instance.
What sort of course suits you best?
That's a good question. I think I am quite, even though I'm a tall guy and I am weighing a little bit above 80 kilos, so I'm quite heavy compared to the average triathlete.
How tall are you?
I 195,
Okay, so you're quite a lot
so
taller than
around,
me, and we weigh the same.
yeah.
Ideal.
Yeah. So I think that either a course like Daytona, where you have, of course, the 20-meter rule is a big plus in my book. But in Daytona, it's only about raw power, and then compared to your aerodynamics, the weight doesn't really matter so that much when it's just all flat. It how much power you can do and how aerodynamic you are. And I think I'm not the most aero guy if you just look at it on a CDA point, but compared to my size, I'm quite aero. Uh, it's much more difficult for a big guy to be aero, as like when you see some of the small bike riders, like what is that, the Belgian Remco Evenepoel, he's like so small and he does not feel anything in the wind.
No, he doesn't punch
So
a
I think
hole, does he?
I'm quite good on courses like that, but also uh, routes where there is some climbing, but maybe not very technical downhills. So just power climbs where you can really sit in the base bar, or even some of the climbs you can take in the aero position and just power through. That's also something that suits me quite well.
Okay. So what's your involvement with the PTO been so far? Have you had much to do with the Professional Triathletes Organisation, and what are your views on that organisation?
I think the first thing I had with them was, I not had with them, but I was working. I got the wild card last year because I wasn't in the top 50 for the PTO championships. So after I won in Poland, they decided to give me a wild card for Daytona. So that was like the first time I, I that I was involved with them, and obviously going to Daytona and the hype and setup in there, the way they pulled off the event was just that was really mind blowing for a young guy and not very experienced. So it's definitely good for especially young people coming through, that they are now in the sport trying to do everything they can to lift the game and get the sport out in a more broad perspective. So it's not just the people that know triathlon that watches it, but they're also trying to broadcast the events on Eurosport and stuff like that. And that, I think that's what we need if we want the sport to grow.
They're about to announce their own series, aren't they? Have you heard much about
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Will you be racing it?
Yeah, I'll definitely be racing. I've just heard that they are introducing some like majors, they call it, next year, where all the best will be there. And really that's what motivates me, is those big events where you just know that everyone is there. And you it's, for instance, when I was on the training camp on Lanzarote now, I knew that Kristian Blummenfelt would come to Daytona, and that's probably what I was thinking about half of the time when I was struggling, was just that I know that the best guy in the world will be there, and I want to make sure to do everything I can to be competitive against him.
Are you motivated by personality? What's better?
Yeah,
What's a better option? Beating Frodeno at an Ironman, or beating Blumenfelt at a 70.3?
I think right now I've never raced an Ironman, so it would be cruel of me to say that. So definitely Christian on a 70.3 is like the one I can relate most to, I think.
Yeah, throw a bit of Gustav in there as well, eh? Just to spice
Yeah,
things up.
yeah.
So, what do you want to get out of 2022, Magnus? Where are we going?
The idea is to use these 2 weeks to try to relax and make a plan of the next season. But definitely, as we talked about just before, the PTO tour looks really promising. They haven't announced it yet, but I'm sure that it will be really cool to be there. And then hopefully this year or next year, I will be selected for Collins Cup, and then one of the main goal will probably be 70.3 Worlds in St. George again. It's a course I really like, and I have very good memories from the first time I raced. So I'm really looking forward to going back there.
Exciting times ahead then, mate. So if people want to follow you, find out what you're up to, where's the best place for them to go?
I'm not the most outspoken and like the guy that pushes out everything on social media. So the one channel I use at the moment is Instagram. I'm hoping to launch a web page and a Facebook page very soon, but Instagram is where you can follow along at the moment.
Cool. Well, look, excellent. Good luck with the 2 weeks rest, mate. I hope you take it easy and have a good one. And good luck with the year ahead. We'll look forward to monitoring your progress closely.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me.
And we're back. I unfortunately missed the interview. We did chat with Magnus earlier. I'm sure it was great because we had a chat with Magnus earlier today. And the thing I loved, he was talking about that moment where Kristian put the afterburners on after he passed him, and he said He's like, it looks like I'm not running very fast, but I'm running sub 320 pace. And Hayden just went to like 200 and went boom. And he goes, I didn't know a person could run that fast. I thought that was really, really funny when he was saying that. But I thought Magnus had a really good performance. And what I said to him, and I'm sure you brought it up, was this idea that the contrast of Magnus 12 months ago at Daytona to 12 months shows to me why I think he's the most improved athlete this year. I think we've seen such an evolution in Magnus Ditlev to become a complete athlete. Like, he's not an Uber biker. I mean, he's a very good biker, but he's got a decent swim. He's got a very good run in him too. But yeah, when you're racing against Kristian Blummenfelt, who looks like a man possessed, yeah, mate. And you said it before the interview. Like, I didn't think that Kristian looked bad. I think it's the happiest or the most relaxed I've seen Kristian, because he was going past the audience, like geeing up the crowd, and he was high-fiving people. And I think I talked to you about this, but I said I think the reason for that is that when it's a 70.3 or an Ironman, he wants to. Those times matter. He has a point of reference. It's like, okay, I've done a 325 70.3. I've done a 721 Ironman. I need to do better. This was an odd distance race. It's this 80, 100-kilometer race. So I don't think he cared about the finish time. He just wanted to win the race. So therefore, when he had it in the bag, we actually saw him celebrate a little bit and enjoy it. It's a side of Kristian that we don't see very often, and I really like seeing it.
Yeah, same. So did I, and I think you're right. I think and also it was the final race of the year. Yeah. He's finishing off an Olympic gold medal winning year, an Ironman world record winning year with a win at Challenge Daytona, or Clash Daytona, sorry. And I think he probably just was like, you know what, I've got however long a lead I've got on the second place Magnus Ditlev. There's no point in doing my standard Kristian Blummenfelt pain face all the way to the finish. I might as well lap this up a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, what a year we've seen from that man, eh?
I want to ask you, because I was thinking of this question when I was preparing the doc this week. Is this the best season of racing or the best year we've seen ever? Is this the best year's performances an athlete's ever had?
It's an interesting question. And it's an interesting question it's an interesting point that question can actually exist and be taken seriously in a year that Kona didn't happen.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. And so I would suggest that for the years that I've been watching and paying attention to the sport, now take into account that back when I started watching triathlon in 1998, it wasn't as easy to watch triathlon as it is now. So who knows? But I would say that I've not been as captivated by a season as I have this one previous.
I think we've heard about Mark Allen, who won the first ITU World Championship and won Kona in the same year, and we've heard that there's been people who've won them both. But I think, yes, there's no Kona, but what Kristian has done this year, where he won Yokohama, he won the Olympics, for Christ's sake. He then won the WTCS Championship, the second person ever to do that in history behind Flora Duffy, who did it the same day as him, to then go and, I mean, he didn't have the 70.3 race, so that's a thing that we sort of forget about. But to then, have that Ironman debut the way he did, again, it's I think you make the very good point of saying that since you've been following the sport, it's probably like one of the best in my memory. I think it's an absolute contender. I'm very reluctant to say this because I know I'll get hate mail, and I don't necessarily feel like dealing with that so close to Christmas. But I genuinely think there's a podcast episode that I'd love to do one. I'm actually probably going to do the next bonus episode with Chris, and that's what we'll talk about, because I think it's such a fascinating discussion, and I think Chris is such an encyclopedia of triathlon that it'd be a great chat to have with him about it.
I got to tell you, mate, I missed a lot of that. My headphones ran out of battery as you were talking, so I had to put the cable in. So I don't know what you just said, but I'm sure it was brilliant.
I said the best thing ever that's ever been said, and I'm not going to repeat it for you. You're just going to have to download and listen to the podcast. James Bale, what's the next part of the show?
Welcome to the down low on the PTO. So, Mr. Ford, the PTO have done something. What have they done? What have you put in the article this year? Because I didn't do this week. So I mean,
I still thought you'd be all over this, mate, because you obviously follow the sport as closely as I do. And that is the fact that the PTO have announced the PTO Tour, kind of.
Yeah, they kind of have. Yeah, they've said it's coming, haven't they?
Yeah, so we know some information. So I've done a bit of a wrap-up. I think we're going to have Sam on the podcast next week a bit to chat about it when we got another guest, but we'll get Sam on to talk about this. But what they've said is the greatest athletes on the planet, $1 million prize purses, global broadcasting, age group racing. So I went on the site and I got what I could, and it says, what is the PTO Tour? The PTO Tour is an annual series of professional triathlon races comprising of the Canadian Open, US Open, Asian Open, and European Open. So Canadian and US are 2022, Asian Open and European Open are from 2023, as well as the Collins Cup. What is the format? All professional PTO Tour races will be run over a total distance of 100 kilometers, 2K swim, 80K bike, 18K run. Professional prize money. Professionals will compete for a prize purse of $1 million at each PTO Tour Open. There will be age group racing at all PTO Tour events from 2022 onwards, giving fans and committed age groupers the chance to race at the same venue on the same weekend as the sport's biggest stars. James Bale, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm up for it. This is what they've been zeroing in on, isn't it? Since their inception, really, is this sort of contained series that has a narrative around it, a season-long narrative, to borrow a thought from pro cycling. But to see it start to happen is a good thing. Again, it's the same old thing, isn't it? Me and you are going to go, well, your broadcast has got to be good. It's all going to come down to the broadcast and all that stuff, because it will ultimately. All right, it's all right existing in a vacuum, but it has to be out there for an audience to see and invest in. And if, much like the Challenge Championship that we didn't really know existed until we heard about bonuses being paid, it's all well and good this thing existing, but if you want your audience to buy into it, then it's got to be a very consumable, broadcastable series of events. So let's do it, PTO. Come on, let's go.
When I saw this, I was like, amen. Like I've been very vocal about my desire for there to be a tour or a Grand Slam sort of setup for triathlon. I've always thought that probably more from an Ironman point of view, but I think doing it this middle or slightly shorter distance is very, very good. The only thing when I saw it, then I was like, really, is the age group racing. Because to me, and again, this is just me being Tim, either too critical or too optimistic, it's like they're just doing what Ironman have done before. And I'm like, I wish that I've always thought the PTO is a purely professional, like they're after, it's just about the best racing for the pros. And I start to think, well, if there's an age group race, does that impact where they can do the races? Does that impact, are there going to be athletes on the course at the same time as the pros, which is going to affect the broadcast? Is it just going to be the same thing that we've seen Ironman do? And it also makes me wonder, again, being pessimistic, is this because it's like low-hanging fruit and they just want the revenue? Is it just like an easy way to just, I guess, do what's been done before? Like one of the things we have spoken about the PTO bit is that they've come in saying they're going to revolutionize things, but they're playing it quite safe. And this feels a little bit like they're playing it safe. And that's my only real concern, because I think this sort of distance and this structure is really, really great. The fact that we're going to see a lot of the short course guys do it with there's big money on the table, great. I mean, some of the longer course guys probably aren't as excited about it, because they're not like they're not quite as good at that middle distance or whatever. Like we're probably not going to see Jan Frodeno doing too many of these races, or maybe Joe Skipper. But I think it's a very, very good thing. I'm very excited about it, because I want to see races where we have the same great athletes, the best athletes racing each other more than once. Like I don't want to see the 70.3 World Fields once a year. I want to see it 3 or 4 times a year, and that's what I get excited about for it.
Yeah, it is true. Everything you said about the age group racing is true. And I want to see that age group racing not impact the pro race in any way, almost to the point where when you watch it as a broadcast, you don't even know there's an age group race taking place, because
Same.
I want it to feel like a pro series. I don't watch Formula One and want to know about all the other multiple formulas that were racing that weekend at various points throughout the weekend at the same venue. I'm not interested. I want to see I want to see the F1 race, and that's it. And when I turn on the PTO broadcast, I don't want there to be a buggy wrap up of the age group racing and it's all very bells and whistles and sitting around
inspirational stories. And I don't want that.
No, I just want it to be a pro race, and I want to enjoy it and absorb that pro race, and because that's what the sport deserves.
I mean, if I was going to be at one, I'd probably do the pro race. Like if it's the age, not pro race, the age group race. Like if it was available to me, I'd probably do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think I would like to see. I mean, if it wasn't, I'd still probably go to the race. To be honest, like that's it's there. I'll do it. But I mean, yeah, I think we're going to find out more. I know Sam's keen to come on and explain it to us and unveil it. It's interesting to see the locations: Canada, USA, Asia, and Europe. I'm curious to see where those locations are. Like again, Is Asia Australia? Is Asia purely Asia? Are we going to see something in South Africa? I don't know. It's exciting. And again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's give them a chance to do this thing. But it's a good thing. Good announcement, PTO. Well done.
Yeah, there we go. Exciting times.
But you know what's as exciting, James Bale, is the MX Endurance podcast membership. When you go to mxendurance.com/podcast, you can sign up for as little as $3.40 a month. You sign up for one of our annual subscriptions and you get access to a world of benefits, Jimbo, including the bonus monthly show that we record with Macca every month. I just recorded one with him days ago. And as I said, we spoke a lot about Kristian Blummenfelt in particular and his performance and what that means for the sport. We talk a lot about the crash of Vincent Louis. We talk about Flora Duffy. We talk about Lucy Charles. We talk about all sorts of things with that Macca style of spice that you don't get on these regular episodes. I know we've had a bunch of people sign up to get access to those, so I would encourage you to do it. It's how we keep the podcast going. It's why you can see our beautiful faces now. Remember, if we get 100 podcast subscriptions, James Bale will grow a mullet. That is a guarantee, a podcast guarantee. So make sure you all get behind that. Maybe get each other a little Christmas present, or maybe you want to get yourself a Christmas present. That's a good idea. Jimbo, if they want to find out other things about MX Endurance, though, what do they need to do?
Well, if you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram.
Come on, mate. You can do it.
Please jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app. It really helps the show out. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend. Help us grow the podcast. If you've got any suggestions, guests, or comments, send an email to podcast@mxendurance.com before I die. Because I am
shocked. I am shocked that you still have to read that. I would have thought you could do that with your eyes closed at this point.
I remember that time where half of it had cut off the edge of the page and I just stopped.
And I jumped in and did it. And I did it from memory. If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com. I'm not going to do it. They've heard it enough. James Bale, a pleasure as always. We're getting close. 2 episodes to go after this one. Enjoy the interview you're recording after this. And until next week, guys, see you later.
Cheerio.